I'm breaking off my engagement because my fiancé might get sick in the future. My fiancé and I have been together for 5 years. He's the love of my life, and I literally can't imagine being without him. So the thought of doing this is making my stomach roll. He was adopted, and neither he nor his parents knew much about his medical history. A few weeks ago, he met his biological brother for the first time and found out that his birth father had passed away from Huntington's disease. There's a 50% chance that my fiancé also has the genetic defect that causes Huntington's, but he refuses to get tested. It's not the disease I'm scared of, it's the not knowing. If we know he'll get it, we can prepare financially, practically, and emotionally. He says a positive result will hold him back from living his life, but I feel like it's the opposite. How can we live with this giant maybe looming over us? How can I make smart decisions on where to live, how to budget, or even whether or not to have biological children with this man if I'm not allowed to have all the facts? So I've come to the decision that I have to break it off. I respect his decision, but I can't understand or accept it. I have literally no one I can talk to about this because it's his effing secret and not mine to tell. In the comments, OK Image says, he's terrified to know, and he's performing the psychological gymnastics of, if I don't acknowledge it, it won't happen, or it will go away. Give it some time. This should be at the very top. Talk to him, OP, and tell him that he can't run from the potential reality and that he needs to face it with you. Considering y'all have been together for so long, he should, I hope, have the courage to stand with you and face it together. A deleted commenter says, my husband has been battling heart disease since he was 31 and could have died at any time. That was decades ago. It definitely has affected how we live. I have taken risks I never would have because I didn't want to keep him from living his best life now in case he doesn't get a tomorrow. And so, we didn't save as I would have liked, but I learned to become more adventurous. I likely didn't make all the smartest decisions, but life has rarely been boring. Anyway, I totally understand your need to take control where you can, especially when it comes to having children with this man. It is irresponsible to not have all the information you could have. However, he may still be processing the information and may come around. I would definitely postpone the wedding if needed, to give him time to accept it. When you're a couple, sometimes you have to accept some personal discomfort in not getting your way right now. Rhubarb Austin says, it's only been a few weeks. I'd give him time to process and absorb his feelings. Yes, a bad test result can very much affect one's outlook on life, and he will be the one dealing with it. I know you're there to support him if he got sick, but in the end, he's the one that would be suffering from the disease. It's not the same. Tying your future to someone else definitely puts you into things that you'd rather avoid. So I understand your desire to plan and prepare for what you can, so you can better handle what you don't know and can't control. He deserves your love and support right now. You can postpone or see a couples therapist, but don't throw away a perfectly good relationship because your partner is still reeling from the loss of a father that he never knew, the knowledge of a disease that could possibly kill him too, all with the pressures from a fiancé and wedding plans. These things take time. Back up to the post, we have an edit. I have to go to work now, but I'll try to continue responding throughout the day, especially to the comments that exactly mirror the dissenting voice in my head. I just want to clarify a few things up here. 1. I would not leave him if he tested positive for the defect. I would not leave him if he got sick. I just want to plan for us to be able to afford the best life and care for him if he does, which means we'd have to start immediately. 2. I don't want or need perfect children. That isn't realistic, but it is possible to avoid them being subjected to a 50-50 chance of having this disease. Of course, there are alternative options, but again, they involve preparation and planning. I'm more than willing to take a full genetic panel as well. 3. Yes, one or both of us could get cancer or permanently disabled in an accident or any number of things. But I've come to learn that you can't plan for every unpredictable thing that life throws at you. This is the rare occasion that we do have the opportunity to prepare. 4. Essentially, it comes down to the fact that we are incompatible regardless of how much we love each other. I'm a planner, and he is very laid back. Until now, these traits have complemented each other, but unfortunately they've brought us to an impasse that I don't think we can both move forward from happily. Second edit, I'm flawed at all of these responses, supportive and otherwise. At the very least, I feel validated that this is a complex issue with no clear and obvious answer. I've decided to take a few steps back. Those of you who brought up the fact that a few weeks is probably too little time for him to fully process his possible diagnosis have a really valid point. Just because I want to immediately jump into problem-solving mode doesn't mean that it's necessarily the right thing to do here. So I'm not leaving. Yet, at least, and hopefully never. I'm going to find a therapist to help me work through my anxieties and give my fiancé some space, not literal, to work through his. And then we'll revisit this conversation, hopefully with more patience on my part and willingness to act on his. I'm glad they came back with those edits to kind of clarify the situation, because I think that, yeah, OP was moving too fast here, jumping straight into, well, he's had his few weeks to come to terms with this debilitating disease. He's had time. I think it's an impasse now. It's time to move on. Look, I know Reddit is very much guilty of the divorce right now. This is a fundamental incompatibility. I definitely take it at a case-by-case basis, and in this one, OP was jumping the gun. Again, I'm glad that she read people's stories. She took to heart the advice people tried to give her. Whether that advice was positive or negative doesn't matter. It seems that it made a positive impact on OP in that she wasn't trying to break up with him straight away. I like that, and I'm glad that she was open to change. And now, onto the first update. Hi, remember me? I posted earlier this year about my fiancé who was refusing to get tested for Huntington's after learning that he had a 50-50 chance of having the genetic defect. Some of you gave me great advice and support, others the wake-up call I needed, and the rest of you, well, Reddit gonna Reddit. I'm not sure if it was obvious, but I was not in a good place when I made that post. When I stress, I don't sleep or eat. For him, it may have only been a few weeks to accept the situation, but for me, it was a few long weeks of non-stop anxiety where I was lucky to get even an hour of restless sleep at night. I was plain exhausted on top of everything else, and only began to consider leaving when I started to hit my breaking point. Anyway, we talked about it, at length. We cried, we fought, we researched, I showed him empathy. We consulted with friends, family, and specialists. We pressed pause for days or weeks when we needed a break from the whole damn thing, and in the end, he agreed to have the test. Guys, to say that we dodged an absolute maelstrom of bullets would be putting it mildly. He's negative, both for developing the disease himself as well as the risk of passing it on. No matter what else happens, this is one area where he is assuredly safe. All of this said, once the euphoria faded, we decided that it was necessary to put a hold on our engagement and take some time apart. I still love him with all my heart, but this was our first serious disagreement as a couple, and it forced us to seriously reflect on ourselves and our relationship. Neither of our positions were wrong, but they were so disparate that there was no realistic compromise. I've spent the last few months traveling abroad, and other than a few texts, we haven't spoken much. But I'm home now, and we have our second first date tonight. Wish me luck. Edits. 1. I mentioned this a million times in the first post, but here goes again. I had no plans to leave if he tested positive. I just needed to know so that we could plan our lives accordingly. 2. We decided together to take a break. It's been an incredibly difficult, emotionally charged roller coaster of a year. I didn't leave him. 3. We planned from day one to keep communication to a minimum. It was difficult. I actually began keeping a journal of all the things that I wanted to call or text him about. It's extensive, and I can't wait to share it with him. 4. I didn't give him an ultimatum, but I understand why that's the takeaway. I only told Reddit that I was thinking of leaving, and I know that it was rash and irrational. 5. No, I'm not going to kill myself. Sorry if that disappoints you. Jesus Christ, Reddit. 6. Why does everyone seem to think that traveling means sleeping around? 7. I'm just going to leave a little timeline here for those of you who think that I've been traveling since my last post. He learned that he was at risk of developing HD. I posted on Reddit when I reached my own breaking point and needed to vent about how I was affected. We spent the next 3-ish months discussing next steps, consulting professionals, meeting others in our situation, etc. He made his own decision to get tested. That took a while, since there's lots of steps you have to go through before they'll even agree to do it. We learned he's negative, we rode the emotional high for a bit, and then realized we weren't the same people we were at the beginning of the year, and no longer knew how to be normally together, given everything we learned about ourselves and each other during the hardest of situations. We decided to take a break and meet for dinner on the 16th of September. I'm now getting ready to leave for said dinner. Update 2. This title continues to be embarrassingly bad and now irrelevant, but I kind of feel like I'm stuck with it now. Sorry, and I can't believe how many of you want to hear about it. Of course, I couldn't leave you hanging, but there's a few things that I want to address first, so please bear with me for a few more sentences. It feels like many of you are determined for there to be a bad guy here, but please don't put this label on my fiancé. He doesn't deserve it. He's not a jerk, an asshole, or an ostrich. He's a man who was suddenly forced to face his own morality. He had a very human response, and I didn't make it any easier on him during those first few weeks. On that note, it's great that so many of you guys always react perfectly to every tough situation that life throws at you. I'm sadly not like that. Sometimes, I mess up like I did by not initially giving him enough time to process. But I owned up to that. I took several steps back, and he forgave me. I don't know what else you want from me. Lastly, there's a lot of comments about how the obvious compromise was to just act like he had it, but you know what? It was the idea of living like he was dying that actually drove him to get tested. He didn't want us to necessarily save half of our paychecks instead of using them to enjoy life, or deal with the complications of IVF if we don't have to, or forego opportunities that didn't play nicely with the end-of-life care plans that we would be making. Essentially, he concluded, in his words, that the cat was already halfway out of the bag and it could come out, but it was never going back in. If he was positive, we'd be obsessing over every little thing being a possible symptom, but if we left things as they were, we'd be doing that anyway. That doesn't mean that it was easy at all. We actually had to make a second appointment to get the results because he couldn't bring himself to hear them the first time. But that was okay. I was there for him the whole time to support him however he needed me to. Okay, I'm done with that. On to what you actually clicked for. Do you guys know that feeling of watching a favorite childhood movie for the first time in years and being nervous that it won't hold up or have the same magic that you remember? That's kind of what I was feeling yesterday. And I actually have to thank everyone for jumping down my throat in the comments because you did a great job of distracting me from the butterflies in my stomach. Well, the magic was still there. We may have spent some months apart, but it didn't feel that way at all. In fact, everything felt even better and more comfortable than when we parted. We felt like the happy couple we'd been back in January before this whole thing started. It was like there was a weight hanging over our relationship that was keeping us from actually moving forward despite the good news. And it's finally been lifted. Before last night, I couldn't remember the last time anything with him felt bright and easy. But we're back, baby. I know the general consensus was that this was a dumb move, that we should have opted for marriage counseling instead of going our own ways for a bit, and I'm not a relationship counselor. I'm not recommending this method to anyone. I don't know why it worked for us. All I know is that we were both so drained at the time, and we each had the same gut feeling that a complete separation was what we needed. Our relationship had become far more exhausting than fun, and I honestly believe that we wouldn't have made it if we'd forced ourselves to work together to fix it. Again, don't take relationship advice from me, but trust your instincts. You have them for a reason. And I'm sure you'll be happy to know that he wasn't sitting at home pining for me while I traipsed around Europe not having sex with people. He was busy with his own adventure. He bought a car, we live in Manhattan, so that's a pretty big thing, and road tripped across the country. We stayed up all night sharing stories and pictures and telling each other about the people we'd met. It was absolutely amazing sharing our experiences with each other. I know it may seem like it would have been better if we had done it together, but there was something really special about living it through each other's eyes. Anyway, We have the rest of our lives to travel the world together because we're not breaking up. Suck on that, people who were hoping that he'd leave me. Look, we know that this new honeymoon period we're in won't last forever, but I really think that we're prepared to handle whatever other challenges life tries to throw at us. Honestly, there's a pretty good chance that we've already gotten through the worst one. Knock wood. But even if there's something bigger and badder waiting for us, I'm completely optimistic we'll be okay. So that's that. We've officially reached the other side of our first major life issue together. Did either of us behave perfectly? No. Are we going to be perfect next time? Probably not. Are we 100% committed to combining our completely opposite ways of dealing with crises into a superpower designed to crush conflict like a 90s cartoon? Absolutely. Thanks for listening to my story, everyone. Roll credits. In the comments, Picture Negative says, I don't really blame either one of them. As a partner, I wouldn't be able to handle not knowing. As a candidate, I would feel the need to assert whatever control I could over the situation, even if it means controlling whether or not I got the test. This, not knowing, is a deal breaker for me. When in a partnership, one has the right to know those things to plan accordingly. She really couldn't deal with not having any control over the situation, and I can sympathize. I'm so glad they were able to resolve it so maturely. More kids need parents who are so sensible. I think we can all empathize with that, because not knowing anything, not having any control or power over the situation, makes it feel so much worse. It's not great being stuck in limbo. It's not great being in a place where you don't know how your future is going to look, and because of that, you don't know how to plan. Do I have 20 years? Do I have 30 years? Or do I have 1 month? And you don't even have a timeline for when you're going to know that. So then you want to take control over that situation by just being like, all right, I'm out then. I can't handle this. I can't be in limbo forever. It sucks. It's a really shitty situation to be in. It's a really shitty place. But they are so fortunate for having worked it out together, and that time separated fixed a lot of the problems or put those problems to rest that otherwise would not have worked out so well if they were together. I'm glad it worked out for you, OP. I hope that you're able to face the next challenge just as gracefully and just as united as you are now. I believe in you guys. Thank you for the story. Our next post is by user No Pool, and it's titled, My 15-year-old idiot kid got his girlfriend pregnant on purpose. I, 30 female, have a child who is 15, we'll call him Ollie, plus other children aged 2, 6, 9, and 11. As you can tell by my own age, I was a teen parent. I was lucky, and we married at 18, still married, healthy relationship, worked our way out of a very dire situation. Graduated, started a trade, etc., and we are comfortable, stable in all ways. This information is relevant. Ollie has been friends with this girl, we'll call her Bree, since he was 7 years old. Their family used to live in the same city as us and went to the same school, same friendship group. We know her parents and are long-distance friends ourselves. Not close friends, but we do say hello when the kids are on video chat, had drinks together before, etc. Bree's family moved to a very small town 3 states away due to rental affordability, which is no secret, and we've all talked about the rising costs of everyday life. The cost of living in this city has risen, forcing many locals out. They moved because of that, and for better job opportunities 18 months ago. Since then, Ollie has been begging for us to follow, giving us a sales pitch on cheaper housing, better paying jobs, none of which fit either of our professions, the whole works. We've said no because, well, no. But even if we wanted to, our other children are in school, sports, and have friends here. Selling and buying another house, finding work outside of our skill set, or having to learn new skills, any normal adult would understand this, but he does not. Well, fast forward to Christmas, Bree's family come to our city for a holiday, and the kids met up multiple times with each other. It was my understanding that they were always with the other kids, but obviously not, since Bree is pregnant, and I'm certain that it was on purpose. He has access to condoms. I don't care for opinions on that. My access was restricted, and I had him. He has had sex ed from me, my husband, and school. He knows damn well how babies are made and how not to have one. Ollie now wants me to move to be with her and the baby. It's confirmed. I've talked to her parents, and I said no, I don't feel I need a reason, but he asked. You're 15. We don't have any proof that it's your child yet. I'm not moving us away from our lives, and you are not going alone until you're 18. We will do a DNA test, then we will look at parenting plans, and topped it off with a too bad, too sad. You made your bed, now you have to sleep in it. He took that back to Bree, and now all communication between me and her parents has been cut. I'm a terrible person. My comments about the DNA test are disgusting, and it's fueling my son's hate for me. He says I'm keeping him from the love of his life and future baby, using my own successful relationship as proof that it will work out. I actually don't even know if I'm in the right or not. I'm just really upset and feel like my life I worked really hard for has been destroyed. Edited for update, to answer some questions. She is due September around the 22nd. So no, there is no option for abortion. I don't think that or adoption ever was. Ollie admitted that it was on purpose last night. Apparently it was Bree's idea first, as a joke, that turned into a plan together. Bree's parents will only pass messages through my son, and I heard this for myself. I stood outside the door and listened to them tell him, "Tell your mother, insert information below," because I know I'll just go off on her about that bullshit still. They are talking shit about me with my kid. They are appalled I would even think that way of Bree when I've known her for more than half her life and do not wish to talk to me. I will not allow him to move out there alone. There are some past issues, such as Bree breaking up with him twice in the last 18 months because she found someone that she liked more in her new town. Around August and October last year, same boy. And when it ended, she came back to Ollie. Bree is a nice girl, but her behavior is toxic and has been since a child. Her mother and stepfather are nice, but the relationship is unstable, the house is chaos. 9 children combined, blended family, and 2 out of 3 teenagers with serious mental health struggles. He would be leaving stability for chaos and no structure. I want a DNA test. I will not budge on that. I'm close to cutting his contact totally at this point because they're only empowering him and reinforcing his behavior towards me and his father. His father is a man of few words, which is unhelpful. So far, he's backed everything I've said and only really chosen to say, "You have the intelligence of a pear." He's not wrong. He kinda cooked with that. On to the second update. Things have gone south even further. At this point, husband and I have been blocked on all social media and numbers blocked, but the communication with Ollie has continued. Ollie gave us Bree's parents' email address to send an email to, but before using that, I asked him to video chat Bree with me there, and then I could ask Bree to please get her parents so I can talk to them about this and tell her that if they were going to continue to refuse, then I would be blocking all contact to Ollie and communication until this is resolved. I told Ollie this before the call. At first, he flipped out about it, but it was this or I cut communication completely. I do think he understood that it's not okay that her parents are speaking to me through minors, and he said himself that he would like us to talk to each other. Bree joined the call and hung up when she saw that I too was there. Ollie called back a few times and she did not answer. She asked via text why I wanted to talk to her, and Ollie told her that I wanted to speak to her mother and that if we didn't resolve this communication issue, then all contact would be ended until her parents made contact with us and we made a plan for the next few months, including DNA and then birth arrangements, said that if the baby is his, then we will travel there for the birth and the first few weeks after. He told her that I personally think that it probably is his baby, but I want to be sure and make sure everything is done right from the start. Well, Bree blocked him with a reply, and he is totally heartbroken and not eating, sitting in his room all day and night, not mad at me surprisingly, very, very sorry for him and to us, sad about it all, and I think regretful. He even asked me if there was a way to undo it for himself. I haven't talked about signing over rights, aka a male abortion as his father called it, because I think he's just upset right now. A mutual friend of Brie and Ollie's here in our hometown showed him a few posts that she has made in the last 24 hours. Things like, "It's you and me against the world, baby girl," and memes about deadbeat dads. She also announced the pregnancy, which she hadn't done yet, and the post had some single mother facts and quotes. Ollie's friends knew about the situation, and a few were under the impression that he had dumped her and the baby, going by the posts, but when he explained what had happened, they all rallied for him in the comments. I said not to, and now she has blocked them, and we can't see what she has posted. This is just a nightmare. I kind of have a plan personally, not set, but something that I wanted to talk to her parents about, but I don't even want to waste my time at this point. Ollie gave us Brie's parents' email address to send an email to with said plan. Basically, Brie does DNA blood test, we pay the full $1,500 for it. If it is his baby, we can book flights and plan to be there for the first month. I will stay with Ollie, maybe even the whole family, and then we can also work on a parenting plan and getting into mediation for a judge to sign off on it. Ollie's father and I split for the first 7 months of his life, so we have done this before and we know the process. But at this point, I think I'll just leave it to settle before sending an email. In the comments, nobody gonna point out both children are manipulative? Obviously the girl was on board, and it sure seems like they both kept it under wraps until it couldn't be aborted. Both children are bad actors here. And OP says, I think it was planned 100% on both sides, and this was Christmas. She's around 24 weeks, I believe, and way past abortion. They also never told us until 20 weeks. Her family knew, but never contacted me. Another commenter says, quite the manipulative teen you've got there. But by teen logic, his plan makes perfect sense. From any point of view, you can't give in to his plan though. It would ruin you financially, ruin his relationship with his siblings, and yours with him. I would give him a detailed plan on how you and your partner manage to rise above all the risks of teen pregnancy. Focus on school, plan ahead, make sure the village is on board, and of course how lucky you both were that it all worked out despite having to sacrifice so much. How does he expect you to support his child without your jobs? But he made the choice to become a parent, so now he will have to do what you did. Focus on school, get stability, make sure to stay in his and her parents' good graces so they can be the village that they will desperately need. There is nothing he can do to support his girlfriend physically, and as a jab, he's done enough physical support for a good while to come. He doesn't have a job, no way to provide financially. All he can do is focus on being able to do that as well and as soon as possible. So by the time he's ready to go partying, no, he isn't. He's going to bed early to get up for his weekend job to save up for his kid. Another commenter says, he's 15. You get to make the decisions and you are doing the right thing. No way you can move your whole family because of this. The responsible thing is to do a DNA test and set up a parenting plan. He won't like your decisions, but that's too bad. Sometimes being a good parent is making decisions that our kids have to hate us for. This is a result of their bad decisions, not yours. Reality is about to hit that kid like a fucking train. A 15-year-old does not get to dictate terms on uprooting the whole family and ripping his siblings away from the only lives they know. A 15-year-old does not tell his parents what they will do, full stop. Junior here can sit down and reflect on how badly he has messed up his own future. That is the limit of his power right now. He's 15. He will do as he is told. We can see here that he has the decision-making skills of the average parakeet. Feel free to tell him that. He doesn't even know if it's his child. Insist on that. Very good point. We don't know if it's their child, and as a lot of you in the comments pointed out on the story with the father going behind his wife's back to check if his son is really his, I think in regard to the fraud aspect of it, where you can potentially have people that will have someone else's baby but set you up to be the financial guardian of that child, the financial provider, I agree with you guys. It is smart to get the DNA test done. That is a valid point. In this situation as well, it's valid to get a DNA test done, especially given how cagey and non-communicative the supposed baby mama and the parents are. And the fact that they keep blocking you, they don't want to talk to you, they outright refuse the DNA test. This is solidifying those points that you guys were making in the comments there, and it is confirming it for me. Seems like a case of fraud. It wasn't a case of fraud in that first story, but in this story, there's so many alarm bells, there's so many red flags. It seems like Ollie is not the parent, but they're trying to put it on Ollie because he comes from a financially stable family, and their family in comparison is as bad as it gets. That is the worst comparison ever. Such an unstable household. Not good, not able to provide for that child. Might as well latch onto Ollie because he's a sure bet. Absolutely not. Update 3. So Ollie's friend was able to see her Instagram through an old account. Different email? I don't know. I don't use Instagram enough to know what that means, but it meant that they weren't blocked when they reactivated. They found the pregnancy announcement post, and if you scrolled across, it showed a digital copy of the scan that Bree sent us as a 16-week scan, which was apparently the first scan that she had at the OB. That is dated the 4th of the 4th, and clearly says GA 19 plus 3 weeks, making an August due date, I believe, or very early September. This would not line up with a due date given to us, but does line up with when her parents told me she was pregnant mid-April. They told us, we've had the pregnancy confirmed, and sent a photo of the printed pic, which the date isn't on there. I actually think that it may have been cut off the top. I haven't told Ollie this yet because I want to be sure. I am very concerned about his mental health at the moment and taking that into consideration. But unless she gave the wrong period dates and the baby measured only 16 weeks, then it's not possible for it to be our son's. Also, added information, her due date, from what we know, is September 22nd. She was here from December 20th to January 7th and saw Ollie December 21st and 22nd and January 4th and 5th. Never overnight. I asked Ollie, when did this happen? And he said January 4th was the only time, which makes more sense, as they were in public gatherings otherwise. They were at a mutual friend's birthday that night, but never stayed overnight. I've had 5 kids, and I know the dates are too close to figure it out that way. Ollie said that the joke that Bree made was just to see if it happens, the pregnancy, because then it's obviously meant to be, and he would be able to move. To me, it sounds like she had the plan a lot longer, but I may be biased here. In the comments, when asked, is OP cutting her son's communication off with Bree, OP says, sorry if it sounds childish, but I'm only updating because I have no one to ask or talk to. I don't want to reach out to other parents I know, or Facebook, without knowing that it's actually my son's child first, and to be honest, I'm embarrassed. I threatened to cut off Ollie's contact to Bree only because her parents were encouraging his attitude towards us at home. Another commenter asks, so what you're saying is that the most immature people in this situation are Bree's parents. I expect teenagers to make questionable decisions, although generally not to the extent of get pregnant on purpose so we can force people to move, but the parents are a whole new level of what the hell. OP replies, I'm wondering if Bree has somehow manipulated the situation there. I couldn't imagine being like this, and the family I met before did not appear this irrational in the past. Another commenter says, is her social media public or private? If it's public, then sign out, and some social media sites you can see without being a member. Then you can track what she posts. Are you even sure she is actually pregnant? Is she showing yet? Has she sent ultrasound photos? She could be lying about being pregnant in the first place. The fact she blocked your son and friends shows it's probably not his. Hopefully your son realizes how horrible this girl and her parents really are. OP replies, her parents confirmed she was pregnant. She's not really showing, no. She sent an ultrasound photo, but it's a photo of a photo. I wanted to keep access to her social media to see if she uploaded on that and showed more information so I could check dates. I'll see if your advice works. Someone else says, definitely don't budge on the DNA test. You never know, especially with her seeing the other boy. And now onto update 4. So I spoke to Bree's biological father, who lives in this town, who had no idea about any of this. Before you come for me, there was no known DV or anything. I felt I'd run out of options at this point, and I just wanted a way to contact them. Bree's mother then made contact, agreed to the blood test if we paid for it. Ollie and Bree spoke again, and Bree asked to come here for a holiday and have an ultrasound with him to prove the dates in person. I agreed to this, but I may not be thinking straight with the stress that we've all been under. She says she's 26 weeks, sent him a photo of her belly, which has grown, and told him there is no other option but for him to be the father, that the ultrasound had to go by her last period date, and she didn't remember, so she went by her app and it was the period before. That's why the dates are out on the scan. I asked if she had a physical booklet of pregnancy notes or something, because I know from experience that they have all the confirmed information on them. But she said everything is digital with her doctor, and I didn't want to push because it's not my medical information. I'm wondering if I do just fly her out here on my own terms. Her mother agreed, and do the blood and ultrasound here and put an end to it all. Update 5. We've all come to a travel arrangement. We paid for Bree to fly out, and her father was paying for the ticket home. Bree was supposed to fly to us this morning and stay for 6 weeks total, flying back sometime in August. Her father is in charge of that flight. She was staying with us over these next few weeks while we do our annual July 4th holiday vacation for a week, and then a couple more weeks back here at home for the ultrasound/blood test. This was decided together, both families, because Bree and Ollie would like to have some kind of positive experience/memories during the pregnancy. And obviously if baby wasn't his, Bree would be taken to her father's, and we would be finished with it all. But she never turned up for her flight. She texted the night before that the doctor did not recommend, and that she should not travel as she is at risk of preterm labor due to her age and her severe morning sickness, making her only able to tolerate pineapple juice. So she's needing to be hospitalized and maybe even deliver early. This is on top of a group photo that included Bree, obviously pregnant in a tight tee, hugging the boy that she was dating in her new town, his hand on her belly. It was quickly removed from her story when Ollie asked. I think it was intentional to make him jealous. I am done. I do not believe her or her parents. I've contacted a lawyer and therapist. I will not be updating again until I know the outcome of the DNA test that I assume will not be done until after the baby is born, since I was told today that I cannot force her to have that DNA test while pregnant. If this baby is Ollie's and my grandchild, I'm willing to move Bree here and have her live with us. It has no chance and will continue to ruin my son's life from afar. In the comments, it's very possible that her going into labor early is due to her real due date. OP says, this is what I thought too. If the other due date is the real due date, then she would be something like 32 weeks, which would mean that she would be 38 weeks when she planned to fly back, therefore an OB may say that they don't recommend it. To Pimp a Dove says, Lord have mercy. We all know the baby ain't Ollie's. Amen, amen. I pray this type of drama never appears to me or my loved ones. Part of me says give them a little grace, you were young and dumb once too, followed immediately by, and thank God and every one of his angels you weren't that dumb. Honestly, this is giving adolescent crisis and unstable teenage codependency that they need to be as far away from each other as possible, even with the child. It's no good for all. All he had to do was wear a condom. But honestly, I know that it isn't fully concluded as a story, but let's be real. Let's be completely real. None of this adds up. None of what Bree and her parents are doing make any sense. The fact that she didn't come over when it was a perfectly reasonable plan to fly her out, look after her, get a DNA test, ensure that everything is above board, we'll look after you guys and make sure that this is all legit. The fact that none of that happened and she's like, oh, sorry, gotta stay here, doctor said no, it wasn't my choice, sorry about it, and then posts that photo, yeah, nah. Let's say this is concluded. Thank God they're getting the lawyers involved. Thank God they're getting therapists involved. I'm going to say on the balance of probabilities, 100% the child is not Ollie's. And that all of this has just been some absolute bullshit, that the parents are the ones that orchestrated all of this, and everyone involved besides OP is manipulative as all hell. May this be a warning to Ollie not to pull some dumb shit like this again. Because god damn it, stop thinking with that head, think with the proper head, Ollie. Stop listening to your penis. We would all be a genius if we stopped listening to our penis. Thank you guys for sticking around. That was a saga and a half. Wasn't the easiest to read because there was so much broken English going on, but hey, we all came together in the end, huh? Round of applause for us. Thank you for the saga, OP. That was quite something. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end the video today. I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.